Chapter 33. After months under palliative care, my father passed away peacefully at the age of 70. I stared at a straight line on the EKG monitor with a multitude of feelings mixing up inside me. My father's body, which used to be tall and burly, had become gaunt due to the advanced stage of cancer. Seeing him like this, it was as if he had just drifted off into sleep. Not a single tear was shed. Gone was the last enemy from my former life.
"Sorry for your loss, Tan."
Captain Aim offered his condolence. I was sitting on a bench in front of the police station. I turned to him and traditionally greeted the captain. He nodded before lowering himself down next to me. When he knew that I had flown up here to be at my dying father's bedside, he called me out to say something. So I stopped by at the police station to see him before I could go help out with the funeral at the temple.
"Thanks, but to be honest, I don't really feel sad about this."
I turned to smile at the captain.
"Surely you must understand." "Well, I never thought I'd see the fall of the Sangwankun family with my own eyes."
The burly man turned to look at me.
"Oh, and by the way, I'm not the captain anymore. From now on, you will address me as Inspector."
My eyes widened at his new title and raised my hand playfully in salute.
"Aye, congratulations, sir."
The newly promoted inspector chuckled.
"Actually, I called you here to tell you about the progress we made into Miss Rung's case. My team had just gathered a new piece of evidence from the CCTV footage we've retrieved from the former security guard who used to work in Jane's condo. Turns out there was nothing wrong with the camera. The guard took money from Pert to destroy the evidence that could tell he went to see Jane when the murder happened. The guard quit his job afterward. It took me quite some time to track him down."
I straightened in my chair, attentively listening to the inspector's updates. I could feel my heart pumping really quick.
"Rung lied about going to see her sister alone. From the CCTV footage, she went there with Pert at 7 p.m. on December 10th. Both of them disappeared into Jane's room, which conflicted with her earlier statements, claiming that she went to see her sister at 7 p.m. and found that Pert was trying to hang her sister's body. With this evidence in our hand, Rung finally confessed, and she and Pert killed Jane because Jane was going to expose their cheating on housing development funds." "Is that true?"
I exclaimed in shock.
"She killed her own sister for this?" "The sisters have always had conflicts about their property. Pert and Jane, who seemed to be in a relationship, had been fighting a lot about women problems. Moreover, Pert seemed to be awfully close to Rung, making Jane want to take revenge on him by exposing his wrongdoing to destroy his reputation. The night of the murder, Pert and Rung intended to see Jane and negotiate with her. However, that probably didn't work out. Jane was strangled to death, and her death was staged as a suicide. A suicide note had been forged. You had to act as Jane's boyfriend so that Pert could be ruled out as a suspect and fled the scene. I didn't want to do that at all." I sighed. During Pert's disappearance, Rung hadn't contacted him at all until Pert came out of his hiding place and came back here, probably out of guilt or some unknown reason. Rung was afraid that he would tell the police about what happened, so she poisoned him.
Inspector Aim shook his head slowly.
"This is all I could gather for now. I'll give you a thorough detail later. I have a long list of witness interviewing, including you, Tan. I'd be happy to come up here and give you info whenever you need me. My tutoring business in Bangkok is flexible, cause it's not a full-time school I once had." I stood up. "Thanks for the update, Inspector." "And how's Dr. Bun?"
the inspector asked.
"I believe he's in the United States. Will he be able to come back as a subpoenaed witness?" "I'll get your message to him. Now I'm living in his place. I'll tell him when he gets the subpoena."
The inspector looked at me calmly.
"Unbelievable. You two are dating. I've always thought Dr. Bun was straight. I mean, he used to have a girlfriend, for God's sake. I could never tell he's one, since he never acted like one." "That's not a shocker. You know, it takes one to know one, after all." I chuckled. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a funeral to attend." "Sure. Let's catch up some other time. But if I were you, I wouldn't go there. You are the reason Sangwangkon family is in ruin right now. Your relatives wouldn't be thrilled to see you. I'll make it quick. My father raised me. I should go to pay my respect one last time.
I bid farewell to the inspector. I gotta go. I walked back to my car with the sensation of having something lifted from my chest. Pert had never mentioned anything about Rung to me, not even her name. When he told me about this, it was like he did it all by himself. Perhaps he wanted to avoid complications as much as he could, and it could rule Rung out as a suspect too. Even though his relationship with her had remained unclear, I was certain they were having a secret affair at the time, which wasn't something unusual for a ladies' man like Pert. I didn't know how many girls he had, as I knew only some of them. Never had I thought Pert's action would have led to a multitude of tragic demise. Thank God I'm nothing like him. If I loved someone, I'd take care of him and only him. My eyes would only look at him and him alone. Soon, when I'm ready, I'll make you mine forever, Bun. I didn't mean to be annoyed over every little thing I came across, but when I really cared about someone, my mind would be filled with the thoughts of that person every chance I've got my free time. And right now, I had become frustrated over the fact that the man I cared so much about had disappeared. A full day had passed since, and he hadn't returned my messages or phone calls. This kind of circumstance happened once before I forgot my phone in the department's van, but I gave Tan a ring as soon as I got it back. On the second day of Tan's disappearance, my anger soon turned into a concern. Did something happen to him? The first thing I'd done after coming back from the hospital was calling Boone, my brother.
Oh, Tan?
Boone uttered a nonchalant drawl.
Saw him 2 days ago, under the building with his students.
What about after that? Look, I couldn't contact him at all. I need your help. Where is he? I directed my mouth into the phone. Tan went back home. Maybe something happened to him there. Please help me get in touch with him.
Calm down, relax. His phone could be broken. Or maybe he lost the internet signal or something.
Boone replied like my concern was no big deal. He disappeared for 2 days, for God's sake. I was so pissed off that my brother didn't sound as shocked as me.
Fine, I'll try and contact him. It's probably nothing. Don't worry about it. You just got off from work, right?
I let out a loud sigh. Yes, I just got home.
Do you have any plans tonight? Interested in the view atop of the rooftop?
I knitted my eyebrows. Which rooftop?
You mean in New York? Yup. You said you went to the Empire State Building, but this one is even taller than the last one you went to. I bought you a ticket. It's in your mail. Go up there and take some pictures for me. I might take my family there someday.
Say what? I was utterly confused at his generous offer, albeit unexpected, for the ticket on the rooftop view. What had gotten into him? I looked at my watch, 5:30 p.m.
But I'm already home. Just go. I've already bought you the ticket. It's expensive.
I'm not going anywhere until I know where the hell my boyfriend is. I shot back indignantly.
He's not missing. Trust me. Go enjoy the view on the rooftop. That's an order. Look, I'll get mad if you don't go.
I could tell this wasn't a normal circumstance. Boone should have acted more anxious since someone went poof. Plus, he'd purchased a ticket to the rooftop view for me as though he expected me to find something. Or someone.
Boone, seriously, what are you guys trying to pull off?
I asked in an icy voice.
Just go, alright? Don't worry too much. Gotta go. A patient's waiting in the OR. Bye!
Before I could throw a fit, Boone hung up on me. I looked at the phone with irritation. Even though I was confused about what had transpired seconds ago, I had a feeling that I was about to find something on that rooftop. Boone seemed unperturbed by the fact that Tan had gone missing, and instead of showing concern over this, he argued me to go for the rooftop visit. Maybe my brother actually knew where Tan was. And was it possible that the reason I couldn't contact him was that he was on his way somewhere? My heart picked up its pace, all kinds of possibilities invaded my brain at the same time. Could it be? Well, only one way to find out. I had to go there. I logged into my personal email and spot an email from my brother, the subject saying, "You must go there." I could detect something unnatural about this invitation. My guess was that Tan and Boone were up to something mischievous, and Tan might show up there. He better pray I don't find him, because I'll twist his ear and make sure all the Americans hear his agonizing cries. The moment of happiness always seemed to fly by quickly. When I began to adjust my graduate study hair, I found myself having fun every time I went to classes. I began to make friends with 4 or 5 of my classmates, who would invite me to hang out with them. I had some of the residents who sought my advice, and an older American woman, a medical professor, came to ask me out on a date one time, which I had inclined her offer, of course. Before I knew it, 5 months had passed, and I became used to the tumultuous environment and the sea of people around me while I walked out of the subway. I looked down at the map on my cell once again and went straight to my destination. My cue to go on the rooftop was 7 p.m. The first thing I felt was the icy wind against my face, a merciless kind of cold. I pulled my coat tighter around myself, taking in the surrounding excitedly. Manhattan was brightly illuminated by skyscrapers. I marched to the balcony made of glass that still had enough space for me to worm my way in. My eyes fixed on the spectacle of beautiful lights of the Empire State Building. I lifted my phone before turning on the camera mode to capture several pictures in front of me. Boone was right. The view really was more beautiful up here. I opened my brother's message box and sent 5 pictures to him. As I was waiting for the pictures to be successfully uploaded, someone from behind tapped my shoulder. I thought the person wanted me to move away to appreciate the view, so I apologized to him and was about to walk away. However, when I turned back, I stopped short. The man behind me was, I assumed, an American with dark brown hair. He dressed in a black suit and extended something in his hand toward me, a small bouquet of white roses. I pointed at myself as though to ask if this thing belonged to me.
"A gentleman wanted me to give this to you a moment ago."
The bouquet of flowers were thrust closer to me.
"He's a good-looking Asian. You guys know each other? He's right there."
The American pointed in the direction behind him. I attempted to follow his finger, but my height prevented me from seeing anything beyond the distance. Confused, I accepted the flowers. My heart hammered inside as if it would jump out of my chest any second. The stranger smiled slightly at me before turning back and walking away. Then I spotted a blue card inserted in the bouquet of roses. I pulled it out and read the message written in a familiar scribble. "A John Doe died from heartbreak. Please come to check up on this poor dude, Doc." I covered my mouth with my hand after a giggle slipped out. Although I had a pretty good idea of what was going on here, I couldn't stop this overwhelming feeling coursing through me. I stepped away from the balcony, weaving through the throng of tourists, trying to balance on my tippy toes and looking for the man who gave me the flowers. "Don't let me catch you, Tan, or I'm gonna smack that handsome face of yours." Why didn't he tell me he was coming? I didn't like this at all. What a stupid surprise. Did he really think I would be easily impressed? I then spotted the figure of a man with a brown jacket and grey trousers, facing out to admire the view from Central Park. I was unsure if that really was him, but considering the man's height and hairstyle, he must be Tan, unmistakably. I walked straight to him and raised my hand to touch his back.
"Bun?"
Suddenly, I heard Tan's voice, but the source didn't come from the man in front of me. The man in brown jacket turned to me, confused. My eyes widened in shock before I whipped my head to the source of voice approaching me from my right. I frantically apologized to the wrong guy.
"How could you do this to me? Saying hello to another man like that?"
"That was a mistake." I turned to Tan. For the first time, I didn't know how to act in front of him. I should be happy, shy, or should I pull him into my arms? This knot of odd mixed feelings caused me to stand paralyzed in my place, dumbfounded, looking at Tan, who was smiling gently at me. In a black turtleneck and grey velvet coat, he looked completely different. To be honest, he looked very attractive in this attire.
It's okay, I forgive you.
Tan stopped in front of me.
Do you like the flowers?
I looked down at the small bouquet in my hand. How did you get here? Why didn't you tell me anything?
It's a surprise.
His hand reached out to hold mine. What for? I scowled. So you were on the plane this whole time, huh? You should have told me at least. I thought you were dead or something. I've called Boone asking about you, but turns out he's your accomplice. Why did you make me worry like that? Why did you have to do this? Tan pretended to be hurt.
You done complaining?
Are you denying it then? I pulled my hand out of his and lifted up the roses. And why did you leave it to some random guy?
I wanted you to search for me. Isn't it exciting?
Tan began to look uneasy.
Hey, now I'm not sure whether I'm here to make you angry or happy.
My face remained impassive for a few seconds to fuel Tan's uneasiness before a broad smile broke out across my face. You know, it's only fair. Now you get what you deserve. Tan lurched forward to pull me into his tight embrace. I guffawed, returning his hug.
How many times have you pulled that off, Bun? You always got me. You scared the hell out of me. I thought my plan had been blown off course.
Your plan's fine. You really did surprise me. I buried my face in his chest, clinging tightly onto the fabric on his body and absorbing the touch from the man I hadn't met in a long time.
Really? That's a relief.
Tan stroked my hair, and it was wonderful whenever he did so. I broke away from Tan, looking up upon his face. My boyfriend was back to his usual self, the good-looking man he once was. His handsome face seemed bright and alive. Where's this John Doe who died from heartbreak?
Me.
Tan pointed at himself.
Could you find out how I died, Professor?
I lifted my right finger, guiding it down on the area between Tan's collarbone before tracing my imaginative scalpel over his sternum. Tan swiftly gripped my wrist and kept it at a distance. He slowly spread each of my fingers, and then my eyes fell on the gunmetal-colored band, shining in the light in the night, in his hand. I felt my breath hitch when the band slid onto my ring finger. Enough already, enough! I was about to suffocate to death. My hands shook slightly and uncontrollably.
This might sound a bit funny, but the person I tried this ring on was Dr. Boonler. I mean, you two are about the same size, so I guess the same could apply to your hands.
Tan chuckled.
You should have seen your brother when he tried the ring on him. He covered his mouth and let out this fake sob. I couldn't stop laughing for minutes.
I eyed the sleek silver ring on my finger, signifying I'm already engaged or married. I used to hope that one day I would have the opportunity to wear a ring like this to a young woman whom I felt that I could be with her for the rest of my life, marry her, have children with her, so that my parents would be proud to have a straight son, like my brother. Perhaps the society would see me as a man. After I decided to reveal my true self, I never allowed myself to think about marriage again.
Will you stay with me like this forever?
I was speechless, blinking rapidly, didn't know what to do for several seconds. I didn't expect Tan to do something like this for me. What is this? My answer turned into a ludicrous question.
A ring. For you. I want everyone to know that you're taken. I don't have all day to swat those flies away.
Tan raised his left hand, showing an identical ring.
And you don't have to worry about my students trying to steal me away.
In that moment, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Holding the back of his neck with my hand, I pulled him down for a kiss. Tan gripped my waist with his hands and took control of the situation hastily. We were in New York, and kissing in public wasn't something uncommon in the Western country. Unlike Thailand, where this display was considered a taboo, here in New York, I saw many couples snuggle in the subway, some in the park even. We held our kiss for a long time. I didn't care how many pairs of eyes were directed at us. The only thing I cared about was the sense of taste Tan gave me. "Get a room!" I heard a woman who was standing right next to us, probably trying to admire the view, speak. I frantically broke away from Tan and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand.
Do you need to go somewhere after this?
Tan questioned, but I shook my head.
I was just thinking that the king bed in my hotel is way too big to sleep alone.
You're not a kid anymore. Can't you sleep alone? I shot back, concealing my anxiety before changing the subject. And where did you get money for the plane ticket? Is your tutoring business going well, or someone lend you the money? The corner of his mouth tucked upwards knowingly.
Let's continue this on my king bed.
What is it with you and this freaking bed? I muttered. Every centimeter of the hotel room looked as magnificent as Tan had gloated. The room was on the highest floor of the hotel, which was located a few blocks from Times Square. The room wasn't massive, but was adorned with beautiful decorations in modern style. I made my way to a large glass window, staring at the colorful light at night. Tan forbade me to ask about the price of the room, but I had managed to erase my doubts by questioning the hotel staff at the counter. When I'm curious, no one could stop me from getting the answer I needed, and Tan should have known better. The fact that I stood there, admiring the view, didn't mean I hadn't noticed the sumptuous decorations in the room, or choose to ignore the man who booked the room, but I was waiting for him to strike. Before long, Tan reached over and spun me around by the waist to face him. I gazed up upon his face, seeing a burning desire in his eyes as he backed me towards the window behind. My back hit the glass, and I knew he couldn't wait a moment longer. Tan tilted my chin up as I opened my lips, waiting for him to bring his lips to mine. The kiss was rough and intense, as if he had been holding it inside this whole time. It sent an incredible sensation down my spine and my whole body. After a moment, I turned away, gasping for air.
I miss you a lot, Bun.
Tan stroked my cheek softly with his thumb.
Have you heard about the couple having sex by a glass window, but the glass couldn't support their weight, so it broke, sending them both to their death below?
I questioned. A burst of laughter tore through his lips in response.
Are you trying to kill the mood?
I'm just saying. I circled my arms around his neck. I need a minute to take a bath. Then we could pick up where we left off on your king bed, don't you think? I could feel something grow under the fabric and hit my thigh. Tan cupped his forehead.
I'm not sure if I could wait.
I let out a small sigh, releasing my hold on his neck and sliding downwards to his waistband. I worked on undoing his belt and unzipped his pants. His breathing was quicker, louder in excitement as I knelt down in front of him. The last time I had done this for someone was ages ago, since I was just a teenager to be exact. I didn't know if he'd like it, for I was sure I wasn't an expert on this. Nevertheless, I wanted to do it for him. Images be damned. There were only the two of us in this place, a torrent of lustful desire blazing in our chests. Many hours and minutes passed by, every kiss, every warm breath on the back of my neck, every steady rhythm he repeated inside me, made no room in my brain to focus on other things other than this lustful euphoria. My eyes fluttered open with exhaustion, as though I hadn't gotten enough sleep last night. I sat up in a sitting position, with my eyes still closed, for a few seconds before pushing a soft, warm blanket aside. I stepped out of bed, throwing on the hotel's white bathrobe, which was previously lying on the floor, and marching towards the glass window blocked by opaque curtains. I pushed the curtains aside, and the morning sunlight streamed through the transparent material into the hotel room near Times Square. The view of Manhattan in early morning light from the high angle was a great view before starting the new day. On top of that, today was Saturday, so I didn't have to pull myself from the bed at the crack of dawn. The man on the bed let out a soft whining sound at the intruding sunlight. I turned to look at Tan, who threw the blanket over his head and went still. I turned back to the view once again, a smile accidentally slipping out because of happiness. Tan told me he was going to start the new cram school soon. He was determined to save enough coins to pay me a couple of visits here in the United States, before I returned to Thailand. With some sort of blind luck, one of the model scouts on the social network took notice of my boyfriend's good looks, and Tan was approached to be a model for an online clothing store, followed by occasional modeling shoots, which Tan didn't refuse because of a handsome pay. He was yet to be famous in a modeling career, but he told me that this wasn't his kind of thing. He just did it for his new school, and he wanted to be remembered as a tutor. Tan made a promise that when I returned he would take me to live in a nicer place than the residence we currently had. I could only warn him not to get over his head. While I was mulling over the vision of what my future with Tan would look like, a glimpse of something rushed downward before my line of sight. I exclaimed softly and unlocked the door to the balcony. Once outside, I heard the screams and the background clamor of cries from below. I looked down and saw the body of a man with a light shade of skin lying face down on the ground below. He was naked, his ankles unnaturally bending with bones protruding through his skin. Blood poured freely from his nose and ears, pooling onto the ground into a halo. Death resulted from a fall. I believe this man must have fallen from the floor above me and must have taken his feet down, resulting in serious injury to both ankles. The powerful force from the impact fractured the base of his skull, resulting in bleeding from the ears and nose. This man had died on the spot, no doubt. The spot where he landed wasn't far from the edge of the balcony, meant that he didn't jump out of the building, which would have made the spot of his death move further from the balcony if that's the case. I looked up. Now, the fun question was, did this person jump out of the building to commit suicide, or did someone push him? I guess we have to leave it to the forensic team to find answers from the dead body, to listen to what the corpse was trying to say, and come up with a report with the information they found for this case. But do you want to know what I think? If you ask me, I would say his manner of death is murder. The end.